Greetings and bienvenue, Midnight Crew. Thank you for returning to this broadcast. And welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
Without Greentext, what is the scariest thing to happen to you in real life? No bullshit, please.
Went into the woods a while back. My stepdad owns a cabin in New Mexico, so a few of my friends went up there for spring break last year. We are all around the fire pit at night right outside the entrance drinking beers when I go to take a piss a little off the side. The cabin is on a hillside, so I walk down when nature calls in the dark. It is only 100 feet off of where my friends are, and I can still hear them. But it is pretty dark, and if it were not for the moon, I would not have been able to traverse the trees down to where we choose to take dumps the few days we were out there. As I am leaning against a tree, I hear light crackling sounds like someone walking behind me, and I start saying the usual, "Stop, you shitheads, I know it is you." But after the first time I say that, I start listening more and the moving sounds. I do not know, weird. Like the steps being taken were big, slow, but not coming from the same area. I can still barely hear the sounds of my friends over the sound of music they were playing from a little Bluetooth speaker. They were singing the lyrics to some shitty post-grunge early 2000s track, and that is when I started getting really freaked out. The sounds were like skirting around me to my right, and I started running up the hill after pulling up my pants. Then the sound speeds up and it sounds like it is coming right at me. I turn for a second, and I see a hand reaching towards me behind a tree, just illuminated enough in the moonlight to make a gray tint to it, though do not know if it was legit gray, but it had either long fingers or claws to it. The hand was like 10 feet away, and it just reached out like it was trying to grab me, or was just pointing at me with all fingers. I screamed and rushed as fast as I could to the fire, scratching myself pretty bad against the trees. I remember throwing the toilet paper I had, but do not recall if I directly threw it at whatever reached out. I just jumped around and got this double-barrel skeet shooter out of a carrying case I had, and kept saying to my friends, "Something is out there. Get your guns. Get your guns." One had a 9mm, believe Glock, and the other a .45 handgun. I did not say what I saw, and only one of my friends actually went to get his gun inside. I spent the next 5 minutes pointing the shotgun at the side of the cabin I ran from and moving towards the tree line with my friends behind me. I told them I saw something reach out at me and got the usual, probably did not see anything bullshit. We tried sitting back down and chill again, but with no music, it was an awkward dead silence. I was just quiet and finally put my gun to the side after I convinced my friend to bring out his .45 case. The adrenaline of the incident, I guess, sobered everyone up and no one wanted to do anything anymore. How spooked they saw me become really got them. One of my friends said it could have been someone out here fucking with us, and I conceded that would be the best explanation, but it still spooked the hell out of me. I still do not know what it was or if it was even something. My memories for sure recall the incident in hand, but I have almost convinced myself it was faked somehow in my head to be what I remember. I did not sleep that night and was really freaked out the whole night. Everyone slept at like near dawn in the living room of the cabin, which has this large 2-entrance doorway that is just a glass sliding door. There was a point where everyone was asleep, had someone chill fall asleep on the couch next to mine like a wuss, and I heard creaking on the wood outside the glass doorway, then a tap on the glass like a fingernail. Turned on my phone's light and looked, saw nothing but heard the creaking sounds leave off a bit like someone walking away. Woke my friend and went outside with respective firearms but nothing. Stayed up until morning, packed and left. Never went back since.
Someone followed me on a road trip, 600 miles, almost 9 days. Anyway, my wife and I got married last June. I have some family up near Copper Harbor, Michigan I never see, and some family near Menominee that are pretty religious. Luddites, basically. So I wanted to go introduce her and stuff and take a nice long vacation while I am at it. Somewhere around Empire, I noticed this gold AMC Eagle of all things keeps showing up by us constantly. The driver was wearing a baseball cap and sunglasses. Male. I am already kinda paranoid, so my wife told me to ignore it, because that happens sometimes on long highway trips. But I keep seeing it. Now I do not know if you have been to Michigan, but it is rare to see a shitty 80s sedan with zero visible rust. It was pretty identifying. All the way to Copper Harbor from Empire, he keeps approaching me, then falling back. At one point we stopped for gas, and the car was parked at the gas station kitty corner from us, nobody in it. I crossed the street and waited for the guy for 15 minutes. Nothing. So I left. Did not happen again when we stopped for the night or anything. Again, all the way from Copper Harbor to Menominee, this guy is always in my rearview mirror. Not aggressive, just creepy. I got to Menominee, and the guy pulled up next to me at a light. Looked at me once. I got to my uncle's house and told him what happened. He took my car into town and parked it at a grocery store and let me use his car for the 3 days we were there. I saw the guy one last time at a stoplight crossing the other direction from me, but I am guessing he either got bored or I lost him. I always concealed carry on long drives now.
My friends and I used to sneak into a shut-down factory section of a very small processing plant. We would each bring our own supplies, respirators, gloves, light sources, whatever we may need. There were 4 of us, so if we ever decided to split up, we would have a buddy. One night we decided to split up, jinkies, since I wanted to see more of the basement levels, and my other friend wanted to see the upper levels. My buddy for the trip, David, was pretty hesitant about visiting the lower levels. As far as we could tell, there were 4 basement and above ground levels. It was pretty understandable as to why he would be worried, since the basement floors would flood pretty easily, and it was absolute pitch darkness. Like the kind of dark that seems to eat the light you shine in it. Before we started our descent, we told our friends to meet us at the broken wall entrance on the first floor in a half an hour. The plan was set, and I was pretty stoked to see some dark-ass concrete shithole basements. After almost slipping on the stairs, we made it to the first basement level. We quickly realized that the basement levels were just as massive and scary to travel as the rest of this place. I am talking thousands upon thousands of square feet of rundown machinery, leftover papers and manuals, and even some safety equipment. Our trip did not last very long once we happened upon many doorways and even more stairs. We decided it was foolish to get lost in a place like that, so we stuck to easy landmarks for navigation. The noises mostly consisted of water drops that you could hear easily, since it was just a maze of concrete walls and dilapidated walkways. I could not help but shine my light wherever I believed a water drop sounded a little too loud. All was going swell until David decided he wanted to see the rundown bathroom and use it for some reason. The bathroom was as Silent Hill as you could imagine. I could not imagine how many years' worth of dust and debris collected on every surface of this disgusting bathroom. It was obviously colder in the basement as well. While freezing my adorable titties off, I looked around this nightmare of a bathroom. What I saw in the sink made me jump back a bit. My light shined against the mirror just above a clump of fur. I slowly walked near it and realized it was a poor dead raccoon. My only response was, "Oh shit." David, who just finished pissing, got worried and looked at me. I shined my light on it, and we both happened to see the raccoon in more detail. It was dead for probably around no more than a day or 2. Pretty fresh. But what freaked us out even more was the very visible bite mark near its jugular. The hair was missing and everything. The look in its beady eyes seemed to be filled with total shock. It was not even a huge bite. I still think a human did it. Upon having that image in our heads, we decided that was enough of the factory for one night. We walked fast into the first floor entrance and texted our friends that we wanted to get out. That was the last time we went in there. We heard a bunch of kids got caught by being dumbasses, so they upped security. It was such a cool place, too.
Cabin Story 1. Not sure if paranormal. Dad owns a casa. It roughly translates into cabin, near the nicer parts of Tijuana. It is out in the middle of the desert, between Tijuana and El Paso, almost outside Tijuana, actually. Despite being in Mexico, and we all know the state of public safety in Mexico right now, it is actually a safe area. I do believe my dad pays off protection money to some cartel boss, or is at least on some good terms with a higher-up, because nobody ever bothered us when vacationing there, even at the height of the Zeta violence spree and kidnappings. I was about 14 when this happened. It was about 2 days since we had come down from San Diego. Dad was drunk on tequila by the pool. Mom was sleeping in that day. So I took out my dirt bike and went riding along the desert. I never went too far, but this time I wanted to try and jump a few dunes that were far away but still within sight of the casa. Besides, it was also near a neighboring village small town, and I also had a lot of friends there. I had been having my fun there for a couple of hours, when I noticed that at the foot of one of the dunes sat an old lady in a white floral dress. Being a well-educated kid, I went down to check on her, because this was the middle of the desert in the afternoon sun, and no place for a frail Abuelita. So I approached her and called out to her, and she immediately turned to me with the widest grin I ever saw. We chatted for a bit. I just wanted to know if she was okay, to be sitting out here in the sun for no reason. But the lady kept dodging my questions and just calling me mijo and saying how healthy I looked and your usual grandma nonsense. Since I thought she was senile at this point, I wanted to head back home. But now Abuelita had hooked her arm through mine and was trying to turn me around in some unspecified direction, telling me she was going to fix me some snacks. Then out of nowhere, I realized little Abuelita here is dragging me towards a shack. Where did this shack come from? I am positive it was not there as I rode in earlier, and I did not see it anywhere. I am positive I actually rode through the area the shack was. So I tried to wrench myself free, but I could not. I told Abuelita to let me go, to which she kept saying, "Come, come," over and over again in a monotone. When we were about 30 feet away from the shack entrance, I was able to pull my arm free and book it to the bike. I maybe ran about 100 feet to where the bike was. I actually sprinted. I was thinking this was some cartel shit and that I was going to end up in the desert without a liver. I jumped on the dirt bike, and as I turned to look, Abuelita was coming at me fast, not running. She was walking stupidly fast, head held down and cane held in front of her. I mean, when I say fast, I mean fast. I noticed she was making a low hissing noise, so I sped off out of that place and left. When I reached the casa, I decided to turn back, and since I had lost sight of Abuelita, tried to do a wide circle around the area to see what was what. After all, how is some old Mexican lady gonna hope to run after a bike? I was doing a wide circle around the dunes, coming around a curve that would soon show me the shack she tried to drag me to. When the area came into view, the shack had disappeared. Gone, nada. Desaparecido. Missing. It was not there. Scratching my head, I turned to the side and I see fucking Abuelita just dead sprinting in my direction from the desert that was fucking empty a minute ago. I felt like the Ghost Rider, legging it out of there as fast as I could on my little dirt bike. I was genuinely so goddamn afraid I did not even return to the casa. It was in the same desert after all. I rode all the way down to the village, to a bar my dad used to frequent, and used to call both my dad and La Policia. La Policia never bothered to show. Kid calls about weird old lady in the desert. Who the fuck is gonna come? Dad showed up 2 hours later, hungover, not to pick me up but to drink some more. On the bright side, the bouncers, Charuto and Oso, were sympathetic and told me that there are still people in Mexico that believe in las brujas, witches, and occult powers. It was in their culture, and while they could not decide whether they believe it or not, they explained that there was in fact a local legend about a bruja who lived out in the desert and would fetch children and teenagers for torture and harvesting their organs. Oso himself said he had seen a lot of weird crap out in the desert or wilderness and told me to avoid those areas until I had become an hombre, for which brujas had no interest in besides trying to seduce. Anyway, that is my share. I have other stories down from old Mexico, but only one of them is remotely paranormal.
I have never verbalized this story, so I'm glad I am getting it down. It happened in 2012. In college, a roommate and I were renting this small, older duplex. The place was unsettling from day one. Just an unsettled feeling as soon as you walked in. It almost felt like you were in a basement, even though you were not. There was a constant fly problem year-round. Just damp, gloomy, and depressing is all I can describe it as. Even when it was daytime, the place felt dark. It sounds so cliché, but things started really slow. We would hear tapping on the walls, laughter on the roof, sounded like a girl, footsteps on the roof, shadow figures out of the corner of our eyes. Most of this we attributed to squirrels, fairly wooded where it was, the neighbors' sound bouncing around through the wood floors, etc. I mean, it was definitely creepy. I guess not enough to cause alarm. About 6 months in, the neighbor, about 35 single woman, tells me she's moving out to stay with someone else. We rarely spoke, only when we were both outside. She left all her furniture in the house and took her car. Very quickly after that, things we thought were just creepy before became concerning. The unsettled feeling became worse. Tapping and knocking on walls increased. Laughter and footsteps increased. My roommate would wake up with scratches on his arms and back. All around, the activity just became much more frequent and aggressive and louder. We did not like being in the house at night at all, and were already thinking about moving, just had not acted on it yet. Also needed the money. It culminated one night when we were the only ones there. TV and lights were off and we were both in bed, rooms right next to each other. The usual weird activity started and we were talking to each other from bed, saying, "Did you hear that?" etc. When all of a sudden, the 3 loudest bangs on the wall I have ever heard in my life. It was like someone took a sledgehammer and very succinctly, bang, bang, bang. I do not think a human being could have even made these blows to the wall. We, at least I, froze for a good 60 seconds trying to process what was happening, and scared it would happen again. We then got up, turned every light on, went outside and checked the perimeter of the building. Found nothing. We even peeked in the neighbor's window, knocked on her door, in case she maybe had come back. Nothing. We stayed up chain smoking until the next day. We were just really confused by what had happened. Within the next few weeks, we got enough money together to rent a new place. I had people tell me this was probably demonic. I have no idea, but it is by far the scariest thing that has ever happened to me.
Excuse my broken English. It is not my language. An old friend tried to kill me. We were 14 and 15 when my mom did not want me to hang out with him because his dad beat his mum. They divorced, etc. It was a small town in the north of Spain. Then at 18, I went to college in big city. I only came back to the town 6 times for Christmas. Never saw or spoke to him again. 10 years later, I never forgot him. Felt guilty to let him down in that situation. I met him in my town. I was fired 2 days before I met him. We went to a bar, drink some beers, catch up with each other, and talked about going camping and hunting. A week later, we are in a forest near our hometown. I did not tell my parents. I will go say hi before I leave. Something went wrong the second night in the woods. I thought he was scaring me. The third night, the shit hits the fan. We start arguing. He blames me for letting him down, tries to choke me. We fight. We shoot each other. I go to my parents' house, explain everything. My mom tells me how he killed his parents with his rifle 6 months ago, cops looking for him, raid in the woods. I am mad with my mom. She did not call me to tell me because it is sad to talk about that on phone. What the fuck? Cops never found him. I hope I hit him, and he died in the forest. I was forced to move to another city, my parents too. I live with fear every day.
He shot you. Where and how did you get away?
The first night we argued because we were at a national park with guns. In Spain, there is a ban for hunting or lighting fire. We made fire and shat our pants when we saw the 4x4 lights, park guard or cops. The second day, we went far away. A lot. At night, he wakes me up with his hand in my mouth and his finger in his lips, hushing me. He heard something. We thought the cops were chasing us. That psychopath had his finger on the trigger, aiming in every direction he heard something. I freak out. I am not killing a cop. Light fire there. It is only a fine, expensive, but affordable. He goes full Rambo into the bush, 3+ hours. I am alone with a flashlight. At some point I feel he is there, just messing with me. When he comes back, I yell, "Why did you leave me here alone?" He yells at me that it was me who left him alone years ago. Silence for the rest of the night. The third day was a shitty one. In the morning, we probably crossed the French border, and I just wanted to go home. In the afternoon, we went south. Walk for hours, but we had to stay one more night in the woods. We camp, we light fire, cook something. All in silence. All day in silence. I apologize to him. He is right. I abandoned him when he needed me. He is mad at me, yells at me, pushes me. I pushed him back. We fought. He choked me. I hit his face with my head. I reached my rifle, and he reached his rifle. We shot each other. He missed, and I just ran away. I do not know if my bullet hit him. Ran all night. By the morning I reached the car and drove home. Mom freaks out, called the cops. My dad was at work. Cops find the camp, the shells and his blood. They cannot say if it is from a shot or his nose when we fought.
A lot of Mexican people do believe in witches, Satanism, and the occult. Now here in the States, if you tell me a story like that, I would just shrug it off, but in Mexico, it is a different story. There is something about Mexico, whether it is the land, the location, or the people, but things are different there. I was on vacation in Mexico with my wife about a month ago. Now the wife's family lives in a town on the outskirts of the city which they call a rancho, which translates to ranch in English. A very pretty place, no internet and running water stopped after 5 or 6 p.m. Nothing to do except hang out and talk to people and go out to places and see people. One day we stopped by her grandmother's house for dinner since we were going to leave in a few days. Now I already know that her grandmother was known as a white witch around that town and other surrounding towns, which basically means she uses herbs and prayers to heal and help people. I have already heard some stories about her, and she does this thing with an egg on me that is supposed to clean me and protect me when she comes to the U.S. to visit. While eating delicious dinner, she says she is expecting company at 7 p.m., says she has to cleanse someone. Curious, I ask what it is about, and she tells me a man in town was pursued by a witch. She tells me this guy was sitting on his porch outside around 6 p.m. talking to his girlfriend. When he was done talking to her, he realized he was sitting on his dad's chair that normally is under a tree by the corner where his dad liked to sit at in the mornings. He takes the chair and walks it to the tree to leave it there, and as he places the chair under the tree, he feels a presence staring him down from the top of the tree. He looks up and sees the tree has no leaves, only branches, and sees what looks like a human wearing a dark tattered robe with a distorted face perched on the tree. Frightened, he takes off to his house as he feels gusts of wind creeping up behind him. He makes it to his house and runs to his bedroom. Expecting whatever that was to break in, he grabs a machete and stands by a corner of his room. Whatever that was did not follow him inside, but he could hear what sounded like a giant bird flying around his house, whistling at him as it flew by his room window. Eventually, the thing leaves him alone, and he sits in his room awake all night with that machete until his dad comes home next morning. Dad takes him to his house where he calls Grandma and sets up that appointment at 7. Now she tells me that seeing a witch is one thing, but being followed, pursued, or teased by one is an entirely different scenario. Apparently, the witch wants something from him now and will not leave him alone until she has it. Judging from how the witch was whistling and giggling or laughing, makes it seem as if the witch wanted him. So he needs to be cleaned, and a long prayer needs to be said to even get him to be remotely safe, due to the violent manner upon how this witch wants him. I got to see the guy at 7. I expected him to be an older guy, someone who was a farm worker, the stereotype of who would believe in witches and demons. He was young, about my age, maybe 20, 22. He looked nervous and uneasy. Of course, Grandma did not tell him the severity of what it all meant, nor did she tell him what the witch probably wanted. But I got the feeling the guy somehow knew. I was not allowed to watch, but after I did hear her say that he should not stay at his house, and should sleep with family for a few days. That is all coming from what the grandma told me, what I heard and what I seen. The guy's face really got me. I have never seen someone so uneasy before, almost as if he knew he was going to die and he did not know what to do. You could tell he had not gotten any sleep and that he was not going to for a while. That was the most recent thing that I can think of. I have a couple more stories if anyone is interested. Mexico is definitely a creepy place in the rural areas.
This is my first time on this board, and I will tell 2 true stories that happened to me, as they are the scariest things that happened to me, believe them or do not. I just want to get them off my chest. Story 1. When I was young, I attended a daycare center as both of my parents worked during the day, and there was no one to watch me as a kid. This daycare center often took us on field trips during the summer, and it was very fun. We went to a swimming pool. I did not know how to swim well, but thought I did. I saw my friends and all the cool kids swimming in the deep end and wanted to join. I quickly realized that I did not know how to swim at all and started drowning. I fell to the bottom of the 12 feet deep pool and felt no pain. Suddenly, I felt an unknown force grab me by my armpits and hoist me up. I keep being pulled up crying for help, but no lifeguard on duty. I fell back down. I saw the shadow of what looked like an angel to me because it had large wings pull me back up. There was no one behind me, but I felt like something very strong was pulling me up and pushing me to the edge of the pool. Finally, a teacher comes along and grabs my hand and helps me up. There is no lifeguard and no other kid in the deep end of the pool. Nobody was there. Story 2. When I was in 6th grade, I attended a field trip where students went to a kid camp for a week. We engaged in fun, team-oriented games like kickball, relay races, Jeopardy-style games where we had to prove we were smarter than the other students, etc. Lots of fun. This took place on an island. On the last day, we were split into 2 groups, boys versus girls. These groups were then split into smaller groups of 4. The game? A very elaborate Easter egg hunt. Instead of looking for eggs, we were given treasure maps. Each item we had to find was located on the map, but the item itself was a mystery. We had to figure out what the riddle was in order to know what the item was and where to find it. We overanalyzed the last item and went off the reservation. We discovered a house on the island that was burned down but explored it. We saw a treasure chest, but it was out of our reach, and one of the guys in my group almost died trying to get it because the floor from under him gave way. He ran back to us just in time. We left the house and heard voices. We stumbled on a construction crew. They were building what looked like another campsite that looked like ours. A bunch of small cabins, obviously for students, large office buildings, recreational buildings that most likely had a gym in it. At the center of it all was a giant ditch. It was massive. We tried to get closer to see what was in it because nobody heard us or paid any attention our way as they were all into their work, and it was very loud as they were cutting down trees. We saw dead construction workers in the ditch, people with red helmets lying on the ground with no life in them. They were burying them in the ditch. We freaked out. I told them I am fucking out of here and ran. Hey! Somebody get those kids. We ran and never looked back. We hid in the burned-down house for an hour. We did not see anything but heard footsteps for a few minutes. We made it back to camp and realized the final item on the map was on the beach near the boats and never had to leave the area to find it. The prize was a fucking basketball and a gift card. The guys in my group were not friends with me and we hated each other, but this scared the shit out of us, and we never talked about it to anybody and did not talk to each other after that.
Me and 2 other friends decided to have a little art jam in the woods. No ghosts, aliens, or crypto creatures here, just a very frightening couple. On the first day, we found a great spot in the rainforest. While setting up camp, this very timid lady came along and asked me if I could jump her boyfriend's van. Earlier on the trip, I had jumped a few people's cars, but I had this urge to tell this lady no. I could not trust her. However, this was pretty deep in the woods, 30 miles to the nearest paved road. She insisted they needed to get to town to buy water, so I feel guilty and agree to jump the van. Still pretty suspicious. Walk on over to the boyfriend's van. The guy just seemed dumb and stoned. Time to hook up my battery. I insisted on connecting things up and we started jumping the van. I tell him to turn the key. Nothing happens. I have to rev my little 2-liter like crazy to get this big-ass van started. Finally turns on after 15 minutes of attempts. I am totally thinking, fuck, why did I say yes? The two hop in the van and go into town. Next day, we enjoy camp and have fun. While art camp is chilling, I hear the van roll back into camp and I see it bumble back to its original grove. All right, we are having too much fun to care. Later in the night, it started to rain like crazy. I have to take a pooper, so I walked over to the ditch I dug. I knew where it was, and I like to use my night vision to conserve my headlamp. It was raining like crazy, so that is about all you can hear, really. Before I go to squat, I hit my headlamp to do the poo. I see something or somebody in the bushes, scamper off. I am like fuck, but also drunk. So I just continue to do my thing, bury it, and stumble back to camp, write it off as an animal. However, slightly spooked because it reminded me of the way people get up. We camp for 3 more days and hear nothing from the people. Eventually, one of our friends who drove in separately has to leave. We pack her up and notice the lady from earlier walking about. Once our friend is packed and she drives off, the lady approaches us. She's like, "We wanted to thank you the other day for helping us get the car started, so you two should come by or we will drop by here later." She walks off. "Look it, friend, I guess we have no choice. We are starving, so we just get baked and try to make dinner." 10 minutes later, they are both coming. I go out to meet them. Do not want them seeing my camp gear, really. The guy who was totally dumb when I first met him is coming off pretty sharp now and chill. He offers us herb, we agree, but it is at his camp. Start walking over. He offers us a weed extract and a liquid tincture. Like idiots, we both take it. It was spicy, odd. After the sample, I did not want any more, but he kept offering. Our previous appetite had vanished, and we both became open books. Any question they would ask, we would answer. We also both confirmed after to feel very euphoric, definitely not the effects of any strain I've encountered. So things progress. They start talking about baby Bigfoots in these woods and shit, and that there are some in this camp. The questions start getting weirder. The guy would only talk to me, and the gal would only talk with my lady friend. Questions started to get to things like, "So you say you are broke, but how much money do you actually have in your bank account?" For example. During this, the couple's dog walks out and just clings to me like "help me" in doggo body language. I am starting to feel spooked and need to smoke, so I go for my own weed tin in my pocket. The guy hears the tin rattle and loses his shit. "What is in the pocket?" I am like. "Whoa there, it is my weed." "Well, show it." I calmly grab my weed and pipe and he switches back to chill happy guy. "Ha ha ha, nice pipe." Me and my friend at this point are both kinda just nodding and agreeing to not make a confrontation. They wanted to get us to go to a grove behind the van. They insist something really cool is behind the van. A really nice view, also apparently baby Sasquatch likes to hang out in that grove. We are like, "Nope, gotta get back to camp, need to eat and filter some water before dark." Keep pushing on us and eventually are like, "Well, we should all go check it out later." My friend and I nod, "Sure," and start to make our way out. The lady sprints and grabs some water. "Here, have this, we have water. This one is from the store." She stares at me. Her eyes were so full of pain they almost glowed red, it felt. I take the jug of water just to speed things up. "Okay, bye, we need to eat." We walk back to camp pulling some hefty poker faces. My friend, "Was that weird? Like unsafe weird?" Me, "No, yeah, that was weird." Friend, "Maybe we should leave tomorrow." Me, "Yeah, that is probably a good idea." We get in the tent and do not say anything, just listening. Her, "Maybe we should leave tonight, would that be too much of a hassle?" Me, "No, let us leave tonight." Then we both collectively decide to leave as soon as possible and get the fuck out. It starts to rain so hard, literally the most inconvenient time to break up a camp. But it provided good cover and a noise barrier. We get everything up and out. I feel the urge to drive fast, then I dip off into the bush again and kill my lights and wait. Guess what? The van goes rolling by us and down the dirt road. Once we were clear. We drove all night and all morning to get as far away from that spot as possible.
This happened the first time I went to Mexico. I was drinking at the house we were staying at with two of my brother-in-laws and one of their friends I will call F. We were just shooting the shit until one of them mentioned seeing a dark bird sitting on a low branch of a small tree staring him down as he was walking home the other day. He said it while looking at the ground, and he said it in a serious tone. Everyone got a bit quiet. I did not really understand what was so important about it, so I asked. Maybe I had misunderstood what he was saying. F said it was a bad sign. He said it could have been a witch or a bad spirit marking him. I did not really believe in that stuff, so I asked more questions. In Mexico, seeing a dark bird was a bad thing, but having it be close to you and stare you down was even worse. So the guys told him to go to a good witch tomorrow to get cured just in case. He agreed, and we kept drinking and having a good time. The day after that, we were supposed to hang out and butcher a pig together, but F never showed. One of the guys left to check on his house, and he was not there. Later on the day, we learned that he was in the hospital, and he was not going to be back until tomorrow. When F got back, we went over to visit and see if he was okay. He looked as if he had been in a bad fight and had bandages all over his arms and head and legs, even his torso. We asked if he got robbed or something. He did not want to talk about it. He just said he had to see the witch lady to get cured. We asked him what all happened to him. We thought somebody jumped him, and we were going to find them and get revenge. After a bit of pressuring him, he said, "You will not believe me. I fought a bird." We just looked at him kind of odd. We thought he was cracking a joke. He said that night we were drinking on his way home, and he was being followed by a black bird. It kind of spooked him, but nothing too bad. When he got to his house as he was making dinner, he heard rustling in his backyard, so he went outside to see what was what. He steps outside and sees a tall, bulky figure under his orange tree, which he thought was someone trying to steal some oranges, so he walks over to confront him, and he notices the figure shines a little in the light, says it was like a man-sized bird, just staring at him from under the tree. F tells me he is paralyzed with fear at this point. He tells us he thought he was having a nightmare, but when the cold of the wind hit his face, he realized he was not dreaming. Then the figure somehow kicked his chest and started scratching him and pecking at him. I saw his stitches, and they looked long. He said he fought it as best he could, but he fainted when he felt so much of his blood hit his face when he was trying to cover up. He tells me the pecs felt as if he was being kicked by a horse. I think he fainted out of panic. His wife found him outside when she got home, all cut up and bruised. Took him to the hospital, and when F came to, he instructed her to leave to her mom's house until he was cured. That was the first thing I ever experienced there. I did not believe it at the time. It spooked me, but I did not really know much about Mexico back then. Now I do not dare talk about that stuff while I am there. It is always in the faces. When someone says they experienced something, you really do not believe it until you look in their eyes and you see that helplessness inside. It is as if they know you will not believe them, as if they were alone, because nobody would ever believe them. Scared shitless and with nobody to tell this stuff to. Nobody that would actually believe them. That face of helplessness. Fuck that. I'm off to bed.
Okay, so this goes back to 2008. I was visiting my friend's family with my family, and they had this really old house. The kind of house you would see in a generic horror ghost movie. It was huge, had 3 floors and a basement. Never went in the basement. Me and him, let us call him John, decided to hang around the property. We went around back, and there was this big garden for sitting, the kind where old people would sit and relax. Eventually, we went to the 2nd floor and found 2 creepy paintings. One pic related to a street sign in blue that was 533, I think, do not remember. The other one was a table with the same street sign and a ghost in the foreground of the painting. Only showed a hand and some white robes. Pic-related painting was on the 3rd floor, and ghost painting was on the 2nd floor, and when walking up the stairs, the painting with the ghost was positioned so that you would have had to see it if you went to the 3rd floor. When we got to the 3rd floor, John asked me, "Do you think that the street sign from the ghost picture is the same sign as the one in pic-related?" I did not see the picture first, so when he said it, I said, "What painting?" He said, "That one over there by the window." /X/. Let me tell you something clicked at that time that I saw the painting, A feeling of dread came upon me that I wanted to fucking jump out the window just to get away. I started to run down the stairs like a madman, almost fell. I started to scream. Parents came asking what was wrong, and I explained. They said it is just a painting and for me to calm down. I still did not feel well, threw up later. We had to sleep 3 nights there. Fortunately, it was not the 3rd floor or the 2nd one. Never slept in the house. I slept in the car during the day sometimes. Could not sleep and had a feeling of terror every time I was about to fall asleep. The worst part of it was that I could hear someone with wet feet walking around in the room next to us. I did not know what to think. Who the fuck would shower 3 in the morning? Found John in the kitchen. Said I could not sleep. He said that it was like that the first time he saw the painting too. Apparently it was bought with the house. He could not sleep for 4 days. I asked him why not remove it then. He said nobody wants to go up there. Nobody even sleeps there. It is just empty space besides the painting. Well, that is my story /x/ right now. Wish I saw a ghost then.
I was about 17 years old when my grandfather died. I went down with my family to his house for the funeral. Afterward, I was in my bedroom at his house. It was a very large house, sleeping. I woke up and felt a presence in my room. The hair on my arm and back of my neck were standing up. I felt this real negative energy around me and a real menacing feeling. I jumped out of bed and turned on the lights in my room. I still felt the presence in there. I could feel something looking at me with pure hate. I started praying and asking Jesus to help me. I felt such anger directed toward me. I could barely move. I was so scared. Then it was like something quickly left the room. I could feel whatever it was in the room with me had left. I felt a sense of peace and quiet. I prayed for a bit in thanksgiving and went back to sleep. I woke up later and went out to breakfast. It looked like everyone had a rough night. My brother talked about something was choking him, and my mom and dad talked about a dark mass that was standing over them. My grandmother looked really frightened and asked us if we could stay a few more days. We did. We had a priest come out and bless the house, and everything went back to normal. No idea who or what that was in the house. We hope it was not my grandfather's spirit.
One night some time ago, I was dealing with a mental breakdown and depression. I had taken 5 Klonopin tabs, 5 tabs of midazolam, a glass of whiskey, and had maybe spent the day smoking an entire ounce of kunk. So a lot of benzos, alcohol, and pot. Then there was also Tylenol Sinus. It works awesome with whiskey, melatonin, and some other sleep medication and painkillers. I was kinda expecting to die. I didn't plan to. At that time, I really just wanted a long night's sleep with no pain. But as I was laying there on my bed, with a mattress on the floor on top of a nice-looking carpet because my bed lost a leg, feeling comfortable and warm and cozy. The benzos had removed the feeling of mental anguish, and the whiskey was turning those up to 100. It also went well with the weed and Tylenol. About 40 minutes in, I started feeling stupidly tired. Midazolam is a benzo, but it's a fucking powerful anesthetic used to put people to sleep pre-medical operations. I had taken 5 tabs, and usually they recommend a single tab every 3 days. Not only that, but I started feeling my body locking up. As in, I'd sit down to try and steady myself, and I'd find myself unable to get up. It was as if my body no longer responded. Then there was the cold. I live in Iceland, and it's fucking cold here, but I'm used to it. But the cold inside my house that day got so intense, nothing compared to it. It came out of nowhere, too. I had been sitting exactly where I was for about 1 hour when the cold hit. It felt like a blizzard. My skin fucking burned with cold, and I couldn't move due to shivers. I half dragged my ass to the bedroom and covered myself and laid down and accepted that an OD was on the way, and this was the end. I somehow even managed to put on the Doors' "This Is the End" on my phone. I had about accepted that this was my end. I was laying there trying to find a comfortable position because my stomach and arms had started to cramp at this moment. Trembling and cramping and feeling like my head had been placed inside a blender and feeling extremely cold and unable to move. I remember thinking to myself this wasn't a good way to go, but if it was my time, I'd see it through the end. Then I broke down and I started listing out loud my own regrets to myself. To my surprise, I look at my bedroom door and there is someone there. It was a goddamn shadow, phantom, ghost, the usual black shadow that takes three-dimensional form. Its face was pale and so were its hands. And it was scary. And I mean, turn your bowels into liquid kind of scary. It was so freaking scary I wiped off my mind the fact that I was about to die. The phantom had a face and it was terrible to look at. It was like that of an old man's, old woman's, dry and wrinkly, but it would change and move like vapor, and here and there you could see it take on goddamn demonic aspects, as if the pupils would become cat-like. In one moment it would have a regular mouth, then in another it would turn into this razor-bladed fanged horror that bit out its own lips. The thing stared at me for a long time, then moved to the foot of my bed. Standing over me, it moved without moving, as if an invisible god had picked it up with a mouse click and placed it there. It crouched low and started crawling over me. Its face was pretty demonic at this point. It resembled that dude from The Exorcist, if there is anything to compare it to. It crawled over me until it was face to face with me, and the cold at this point was unbearable. It was actually painful. It dawned on me that this was a demon from hell here to drag down my ass. I was eye to eye with it. I was crying pretty badly at this point, and I kept listing out my own regrets, unable to control it. The thing kept staring into my eyes as I sobbed uncontrollably, and listing out all the bad shit I had done and bad decisions I had taken during my life. I felt my body lock up real bad, and I felt the worst stomach cramp I ever felt in my life. My abdomen and neck locked up in a muscle spasm, and I started feeling burning pain on my sides. Finally, I was startled by my own heart, which made the strongest and loudest single thud. I swear I actually felt my torso pump out with the strength of the beat. Then there was a long silence. I felt no more fear, no more cold, and no more pain. There was no sound. I couldn't even hear the fan that was set right next to me. There was me and the phantom, which was still staring. I was no longer afraid, so I stared deep into its brown and red eyes. It felt like it looked back deep into me. Really as if its stare was entering through my own eyes and scanning me from the inside. Then it spoke. "I will forgive you this time. Do not do this again." And I felt myself pulled back into my mattress, and don't remember the rest. I woke up the next day still sitting in the same spot I had been before I had dragged myself to the bedroom. I do believe this was either my afterlife experience or hallucination induced by the heavy drug usage. Still, here is my scary story. It felt like it looked back deep into me, really as if its stare was entering through my own eyes and scanning me from the inside. Then it spoke. "I will forgive you this time. Do not do this again." And I felt myself pulled back into my mattress, and don't remember the rest. I woke up the next day still sitting in the same spot I had been before I had dragged myself to the bedroom. I do believe this was either my afterlife experience or hallucination induced by the heavy drug usage. Still, here is my scary story.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel, as more Greentext will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.